In this episode of the Atomic Zone, the world does not end with fire, war, or revolution. It ends with engineers deciding they have had enough. The story begins in the middle of the night inside the network operations room of Tagertronic, where the giant status wall has turned into a spreading field of red. Dagan Mack, the company's hard-edged, brilliant chief technology officer, is the kind of woman who looks like she was carved out of focus and sleepless intelligence. She reads outages the way a conductor reads music, but tonight something is wrong in a way that makes no technical sense. Systems are alive, hardware is running, lights are on, fans are spinning, and yet the network feels hollow, as though the rest of the world has simply stopped answering. The reroutes do not route, handshakes fail. It is as if everything outside Tagertronic has chosen not to exist. Then her brother calls. James Mack, Tagertronic's CEO, is everything Dagan is not. Polished, political, theatrical, and weak in the way that power often makes weak people seem important. When Dagan reaches his office, she finds him with two government figures from the National Verity Office, the new smiling face of centralized truth. There is Verity Marshal Leora Skane, perfectly composed, cold, elegant, and poisonous, and beside her a legal functionary named Counselor Pritt, the kind of man who looks born to explain theft in bureaucratic language. What they want, Dagan quickly realizes, is not to fix the outage. They want control. Under the pretense of a misinformation emergency, they pressure Tagertronic to comply with the Civic Integrity Protocol, to open infrastructure, to share source, to let the state and its corporate allies seize what still works under the excuse that society is entitled to it. Dagan sees through it immediately. The problem is not sabotage in the way they mean it. The problem is that the world has spent too long treating the people who keep it running like utilities instead of human beings. James insists they are building consensus. Dagan tells him they are building a cage, and when she walks out, she leaves behind not only the meeting, but the moral universe it represents. In the weeks that follow, the world turns grotesque. Every major platform begins to rot in public. Feeds fill with noise, affirmation, panic, propaganda, scams, and AI-generated slop. Moderation systems censor nonsense and miss real danger. Politicians grandstand about algorithmic empathy, while the machinery beneath society groans under neglect. And floating above the chaos like a fraud in perfect lighting is Frisco Dan, a glossy influencer with the smile of a televangelist and the soul of a con man. He has reinvented himself as the face of a cryptocurrency called Copper, a fake populist crusade built on the absurd promise of proof of care, convincing millions that feelings themselves can secure value. Dagan watches him not because she believes him, but because predators always know when the herd is already weak. Then one night, she finds a message, not by phone, not by email, not through any normal channel. It arrives hidden in the comet history of a public repository, buried under harmless-looking code and junk data, and it contains only a question. Who is Atlas? That question pulls Dagan into a secret map of connected minds. Repo histories lead to coordinates, spam trails hide meaning, an encrypted file decrypts into a flight plan, and behind it all is a phrase repeated like a vow, a promise from people who have decided they will never again work for monsters. To follow that trail, Dagan seeks out Kyle Steele, founder of Steele Systems and creator of Metalware, the virtualization engine on which much of the modern world depends. Kyle is not glamorous in the modern way. He is older in spirit than in age, tired-eyed, unadorned, made of competence rather than performance. When Dagan warns him that the state intends to declare his work public property, he understands at once what is really under attack. Not just code, not just infrastructure, ownership of the mind that creates. Together they follow the map. It leads them to a hidden island, not a paradise of luxury but of function, solar arrays, undersea farms, practical robots, artists, coders, engineers, and builders working without slogans, without applause, without coercion. Here, talent has gone on strike from the lie. Here, people are solving real problems because they choose to, not because they are being morally extorted into servicing a decaying world that hates them. And here Dagan meets Atlas. He is not a mythic giant, not a saint, not a cult leader. He is a tall, quiet man with paint on his fingers, a solder burn on his wrist, and the unmistakable presence of someone who still believes that creation belongs first to the creator. Atlas explains what the world outside refuses to admit. The builders did not decide to destroy civilization. Civilization decided to consume them, shame them, own them, regulate them, and demand endless miracles from them while sneering at the hands that made those miracles possible. So the builders stepped away, not to punish the world, to stop carrying it while it spat on them. Dagan understands almost immediately that this is not rebellion in the theatrical sense. It is refusal, it is dignity, it is the withdrawal of consent from a system built on coercion and guilt. When she asks how to join, Atlas gives her the simplest answer in the whole story, by refusing to be a tool, so she does. What follows is called the Black Thread. Not a terrorist movement, not a flashy conspiracy, but a quiet network of engineers, architects, operators, and inventors who stop answering the summons of corrupt institutions. They resign, they vanish. They decline to maintain systems designed to lie, surveil, manipulate, and punish. The collapse is not dramatic at first. It is administrative. It is procedural. It is competent people quietly saying no. Taggertronic begins to fray. James grows frantic. The Verity office issues warrants. Marshall Skane goes on screen to denounce a spreading ideology of selfishness. Fringe groups on every side scream their own nonsense. Frisco Dan keeps pushing copper harder and harder as the scam swells beyond reason. And through it all, the people who actually know how the world works are slipping out of it. Then power does what power always does when persuasion fails. It kidnaps Atlas. One night, men without flags arrive by boat and take him to an off-ledger black site, a sterile international facility where technocracy, government force, and corporate panic have merged into one thing. The island is not built for war and the builders are not soldiers. But Dagon does not hesitate. She and Kyle mount a rescue the way real experts solve problems. No speeches, no fireworks, no nonsense. A forged supply manifest, hidden routing, access embedded in art, quiet force applied exactly where needed. Inside the black site, Atlas is found strapped to a chair in a room of screens while Marshall Skane tries to reason with him from inside her own delusion. Markets are panicking, copper is wobbling toward collapse, feeds are spiraling, the public is angry. She tells Atlas that the world needs him to stabilize the system. Atlas answers that what they really need is someone to lie more efficiently. That is when Dagon steps from the shadows. She confronts Skane not like a revolutionary, but like an engineer explaining failure. You cannot compel brilliance, she tells her. You can only chase it away. And when Skane warns that pulling the plug will destroy the world, Dagon answers with the one truth no one in power ever wants to hear. If there is darkness, they built it themselves. She frees Atlas. They escape by helicopter into the night. And then, high above the dark water, Atlas tells Dagon that she understands what happens next. She does. Because below them everywhere the last of the builders are letting go. No attack, no malware, no bombs, no apocalyptic spectacle. They simply stop holding the machine together. At first the world does not notice. It never notices the people beneath it until the structure shudders. Then the networks hiccup. Then they stagger. Then the reroutes do not route. Dagon's phone lights with one final message from nowhere. And then the screen goes black, not only hers. Instruments fail, uplinks die, coastlines dim. One by one, the lights of the modern world go out, not in an explosion, but in a quiet surrender. The global internet crashes. And the closing narration tells us that every civilization begins to believe that the people who build its bridges, write its code, run its systems, and hold its weight are merely replaceable parts of the machine. But in the atomic zone, the machine learned too late that its architects were never its property. And when the men and women carrying the world finally set it down, humanity was left with the oldest question of all, not how to rule the builders, but how to deserve them.